understand that the safety that comes from growing up in a black community. Okay, and I'll give you an example, my own life. I grew up in a black neighborhood. I grew up in a black Catholic school, kindergarten to 8th grade. There were 3 of us that were the smart ones. There was me, there was Angelette Fallon, and there was Angela Williams. We knew we were smart. Never any doubt about that. So I go to 9th grade to high school, and I go to an all-white Catholic girls' high school. So I never will forget, yes, I took Latin. In my first Latin class, I'm sitting over here, and I got a 92. And the girl behind me, because I'm the only black in my class, the girl behind me looked at my paper, and she started talking to me. She looked at my paper, and I thought, what's wrong with her? So she said, can I see your paper? I said, sure. They literally passed my paper around the class. They could not believe, and it didn't dawn on me, because I thought, oh, they must be like me. I should have got 100, right? That's what I thought. It should have been 100. I know. But it didn't dawn on me that they didn't think I could do this. But that's because I had had that safety, that great, positive, affirming experience within my own community, within my own school. I thought something was wrong with them. There couldn't be something wrong with me. Our children today are thinking, thank you, something is wrong with them. That brings a whole different way of addressing challenges when you think something is wrong with you. So you try to clean yourself up. You pull up your, people say, pull up your pants and talk with a better, no. You should do that. But sometimes things happen that have nothing to do with who you are. It has to do with somebody else's perception, as Justine just talked about, someone's perception of you or whatever. And we have to send the message to our children that yes, you want to do things, but it's because you want to do them, not because it will offset somebody shooting you, somebody stopping you in the street and asking who you are, somebody asking you to validate your presence. That's something we don't want our children to think. And that's why it's so important that we keep this up, because my third point is the challenges that we face in the coming generation has to be decided by you all. It's dissimilar because there's still these kinds of instances happening. When we start to talk about Michael Brown, it always happens. It happened at the game last night. We were talking about, we're going to have this rally. People talk about, yes, I was stopped. Somebody asked me to show how I could be in this neighborhood. So these things go on. It's not like it goes away. But resistance goes on too. And that's what we are showing today, and that's what you have to continue to show, is that resistance. We have a tradition of resistance. I listened to the news and they were talking about, well, these reactionary. And I'm thinking, no, this is not reactionary. And by us continuing to do this after Michael Brown, what is that, over a month ago, they are saying this is not a reaction. We are here for the long run. We are here. But you all have the social media. You're going to do it differently than what we did it. But that's why I said your future, you're our future. The challenges have to be met by you. We are led really by you. So I applaud you. I say carry on, resistance, and remember, our children are taking these things on. Make sure they know there's nothing wrong with them. There is something wrong with this situation, and we need to address it. Thank you. And I have to send a shout out to my son, Jared Carter, who also is so involved.
A quick favor from our featured speakers. If anybody who is left to speak would come close to the stage, that way we can tell if you're here or not. I should have mentioned that before, so it's totally my fault. Take the full blame. They take some blame too.
Back there, chat.
Ain't no power like the power of the people. Power of the people don't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people. Cause the power of the people don't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people. Cause the power of the people don't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people. Cause the power of the people don't stop.
Woo! And on that note, I just want to give a special shout out to Jane Stitt for leading all our chants and giving her voice all she had this morning. That was awesome. I don't know how you did that. I was already like choking on my dry throat. I think we have some featured speakers at the back, and if you guys would join me in telling them to come up. So I believe this to be Captain Jamie Fields from the Fayetteville Police Department. Our entrance is actually over here, makeshift.
Good morning. I'm Captain Jamie Fields with your Fayetteville Police Department, and I have with me...
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Captain Jamie Fields with your Fayetteville Police Department, and I have with me Sergeant Craig Stout, who's a 20-year veteran of the Fayetteville Police Department. Sergeant Stout is our Public Information Officer, and he leads our Community Policing Division. If you graduated from Fayetteville High School or have children who graduated from Fayetteville High School, you might recognize Sergeant Stout from his School Resource Officer days. Thank you for having Sergeant Stout and I. We're here to represent the men and women of the Fayetteville Police Department and Chief Greg Tabor, who couldn't be here with us today. We're here to stand in solidarity with the members of our community and pledge to you our accountability and transparency. Yeah. And Chief Tabor has asked that I address some of those things today. Accountability begins with quality selection of personnel. And for many years, we've partnered with the University of Arkansas's Criminal Justice Program to recruit candidates. But in the recent years, we know that our workforce does not represent the diversity in our community. And in recent years, we've made great efforts to try to recruit outside of our traditional recruiting sources. And never one to pass up a recruiting opportunity. Let me tell you that the Fayetteville Police Department is always looking for quality candidates that are a good fit for our community. So if any of you have ever thought about a career in law enforcement, please reach out to Sergeant Stout or I at any time at the Fayetteville Police Department. We'd love to talk to you about that. Fayetteville Police Department is an accredited agency through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. What that means is that we practice nationally accepted best practice standards. We are accountable to you, the members of this community that we serve. When addressing some physical measures that we have in place to address accountability and transparency, for many years the Fayetteville Police Department has had in-car cameras, dash cameras. We also have rear-facing cameras in all of our patrol cars that capture our transport compartment. Our officers wear body microphones, and they capture the audio recordings from our verbal dialogues that we have with our citizens in enforcement situations. All of those audio and video recordings are stored in a locking compartment in the trunk of the patrol vehicles. And while patrol officers can review those video and audio recordings for accurate reporting, they don't have access to the actual mechanisms, so they have no way to in any way alter or delete those recordings. Those recordings digitally upload automatically to servers at our police department when our police vehicles come within a particular range. So short of some type of mechanical failure, there's no need for somebody to physically move those files, so those files are secure. Our files at the Fayetteville Police Department are open to public scrutiny. We have a very positive and long-standing relationship with our members of the media and the community. Our records are public. So if you have a question about some type of enforcement activity and there's audio or video files, you're welcome to come to the police department and review that material. Some other things that we have in place to assure accountability include our taser cameras. Our patrol officers do carry tasers, although they are seldom used. They are equipped with recorders, so once the taser comes on, the recording begins, and the recording stays on whether the tasers are used or not. You might be interested to know that although all of our patrol officers carry tasers, in more than 3,000 custodial arrests last year, they were used 13 times. So they're seldom used, but they are recorded. Our department has been exploring and experimenting for some years with forward-facing cameras. We've experimented with that with our bike patrol officers on Dixon Street in our entertainment district, and we're now exploring those options for our patrol officers. And I noticed that on your website, that's one of the things that Northwest Arkansas Hands Up group is interested in, is forward-facing cameras, and that is something that we're exploring, something that we're testing and evaluating. I think that's something that you will see at the Fayetteville Police Department. Something else that we have done recently is we've worked with Fayetteville District Judge David Stewart, and he has given us an order in August of this year that would allow us to release on citation rather than make physical arrests for some Class A misdemeanor violations. In the past, Fayetteville police officers didn't really have the option to do that because state law requires that we fingerprint and photograph Class A misdemeanors. But Judge Stewart has found a way, in working with the Fayetteville Police Department, that we don't always have to arrest for things like misdemeanor possession of marijuana and possession of drug paraphernalia. Some things that I know that are important to the citizens of Fayetteville. And so we are exploring different ways that we can work with the community to responsibly use our discretion. I think that accountability comes down to quality employees with a community focus. And I think it's important that you know that Chief Tabor has zero tolerance for misconduct. We investigate complaints against officers. We take misconduct seriously, and when an officer is found to have conducted some type of misconduct, swift action is taken. In closing, I just want to say that Sergeant Stout and I and the members of the Fayetteville Police Department, we are here to serve the community. That's what we do every day when we come to work. If you ever have any questions or concerns about some type of encounter you've had with a Fayetteville police officer or a civilian member of our department, please do not hesitate to come to the department and ask to speak with the shift supervisor. You can call the department, you can reach us on our website, but we are here to answer your questions, and we're here to be accountable to you, the citizens of Fayetteville, and it's our honor to serve you. We've had a long-standing tradition of a positive relationship with our community, and we hope to continue with that. And remember, we are always, always looking for quality candidates, and we need quality candidates from our own community. So look us up if you're interested in law enforcement. Thank you so much for inviting us to this event.
We pay you to protect and serve. 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 We pay you to protect and serve.
Woo! Jane, I don't know where you get this much energy, girl. You need to give me some. We need to spread that love around. And so before we give our next featured speaker, or bring our next featured speaker up here today, my co-MC actually has something that he would like to share with everyone. And so if you'll join me in welcoming him to the stage, and we'll see.
Hello. I wanted to talk about accountability a little bit also. After she touched on it, I didn't know that was going to happen. I was going to close us out, but just going to give some of the other speakers a chance to get caught up. There's a clear path to justice. There's a clear path to equality. There's a clear path to change. That clear path is simple, and it's accountability. We have to hold our elected officials to a standard to represent the people, to stand for the people, to be an echo in mountains where our voices can't reach. We must hold our military and our law enforcement to a standard to protect the people and protect our rights. and to do it in an admirable stance with unwavering character. To be seen by all you protect and serve. Be honorable in your commitment to keep all of our people free and all of our people safe. As we should be in constant prayer for them also, because they protect our lives with theirs. We have to be accountable for each other. We have to respect one another as human beings. Respect and acknowledge that we are entitled to live the life that heaven gave us in peace. We have to look each other in the eye and let it know when we're wrong. We have to have the courage to admit and apologize. Brothers and sisters, open your arms and keep a steady shoulder to lean on when the life sometimes hands out high helpings and heaping helpings of troubles and tragedy to those around us. However, we can't do any of these things without self-accountability. Self-accountability, say that. Self-accountability. In order to accomplish a forward movement, your eye must focus inward to see the vision of an improved future and where it begins. What can I do and what is my part? It's questions that I often hear. Your part might be that of a protester with a sign held high that says all lives matter, or being the one willing to stand up at a school board meeting and let them know you will not stand by and watch them disguise Jim Crow with school zoning laws and regulations to continue to segregate our schools. You can be accountable by being a registered and active voter and encouraging others to do so as well. I said active voter. A job for you might be to take the time to explain to your friends why is it offensive or inappropriate or hurtful when they use nasty or derogatory words to describe those of another race, color, gender, size, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, or otherwise. We have to understand that we cannot promote change without taking the time to understand or hear the very people whose hearts we target. To reach anyone, you must accept everyone. You must love everyone. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye to the pain and the plight of our brothers and sisters, home and abroad, in their time of need, in their time of anguish. We need to be there for them. Let us instead be lights of love and rays of hope, that a positive change might come from our efforts to patch the gaps in our society, in our community, and fill the emptiness inside the hate causes. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to be accountable. Solidarity. All right, up next we have from Ward 1, Ms. Sarah Marsh. Please put your hands together for her.
Hi. Let me adjust this a little bit.
Pull it out.
All right. Thank you for being here today. My name is Sarah Marsh. I represent the citizens of Ward 1 on the Fayetteville City Council. And I want to talk to you about growing up in Fayetteville. When I was in college, I had a summer job replacing all the broken windows in the Fayetteville train station down here on Dixon Street. This was when it was still a boarded-up building. And during that work, I uncovered the old doors to the restrooms and to the waiting rooms, and they were labeled whites only and colored. I will never forget seeing such tangible evidence of racism and discrimination in our community and the sickness and shame that it made me feel. So fast forward to a night not too long ago when hundreds of our citizens filled our city hall and lined up around the block. Many of them came there to testify about discrimination that they'd experienced. Others came to stand up for justice, for equality, for inclusion and compassion in our community. But then, unfortunately, there were other voices.
There were those that came and compared our LGBTQ residents to sexual predators, to pedophiles, and to animals. There were some that came to brandish their religion as a tool of oppression, and others that came to make excuses for inaction, saying that it wasn't the Fayetteville City Council's job to make laws for the people that elected us, saying that it wasn't our place to pass laws to protect the health, safety, and welfare of all of our community. Or they claimed, I actually heard a white, cisgendered, hetero man get up there and claim that he didn't think discrimination was a problem because he had never experienced it, and neither had any of his friends. Well, whether you print it on a sign, like they did on those doors in our train station, or you practice it quietly, whether you rationalize it like religion, which was done for slavery in that dark chapter of American history, or you enable it through omission of laws to prevent it, discrimination is wrong. So what is this ordinance that everyone is so riled up about? It is Fayetteville's anti-discrimination ordinance, and I think it's important that terminology matters. This isn't Ordinance 119 or 5703. This is our anti-discrimination ordinance, and we need to call it what it is. And I want to read to you exactly what this is and what it does so that you can be informed, because there's been a lot of disinformation being spread, and I want to be clear, this isn't misinformation, this isn't a mistake, this is disinformation. It's a deliberate campaign to obscure the truth. The purpose of this chapter is to protect and safeguard the right and opportunity of all persons to be free from discrimination based on real or perceived race, ethnicity, national origin, age, gender, gender identity, gender expression, familial status, marital status, socioeconomic background, religion, sexual orientation, disability, and veteran status. This chapter's purpose is also to promote the public health and welfare of all persons who live or work in the city of Fayetteville, and to ensure that all persons within the city have equal access to employment, housing, and public accommodation. Does this sound like it's something that's good for our community? Yes. Do you love this city? Yes. Do you love everyone in this city? Yes. Then let's pass this anti-discrimination ordinance. Yeah. This is going to be coming up to a vote on December 9th, and there's been a lot of back and forth on what this ordinance is going to say, but Judge Lindsay has ruled that we're going to be voting on the repeal, not the ordinance itself. And the ordinance is not going to be printed on the ballot. So you have to learn this ordinance, and you have to educate your friends and neighbors about it. And the easiest thing to remember is just say no to discrimination. No. Say no to inequality. No. Say no to bigotry in our community. No. Vote no on our anti-discrimination ordinance. Yes. Thank you. So moving on, social justice is more than just about discrimination. It's also about economic justice and environmental justice. Yes. And did you know that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month? And that Washington County has the highest rates of child abuse and neglect in Arkansas? That 1 in 4 women is affected by domestic violence, and 1 in 7 men. And I want to thank our police department and the Junior League of Northwest Arkansas for coordinating on the Silent Witness campaign to help raise awareness about this issue. Did you know that October is also Americans with Disabilities Awareness Month? And I want to thank Fayetteville resident Annette Kuntz for the work that she's doing to help educate us all on how we can make our community more accessible to everyone. And as we go about our day, one thing that every one of us can do is to pay attention and empathize and imagine if you weren't blessed with the abilities that you have. And if you see an obstacle in our sidewalk, like a trash cart or a recycling bin or an overgrown bush, remove it, and let's make this community friendly and accessible for everyone. That's right. Yeah. So we're gathered here today to fight injustice and to take a stand for equality. And this may have been sparked by police brutality in Ferguson and the countless murders of predominantly innocent young African American men. But where this is also manifesting itself is in crushing poverty. 1 in 4 people in our community face food security every week. And Arkansas has the 2nd highest poverty rate in the nation. So what are we doing at the city to help this? Well, one thing we're doing is we passed our urban agriculture ordinance to enable people to grow more food and to sell that food. So if you have a garden or a land that could be used for a garden, grow food. Because as we face these growing environmental challenges, we need to be resilient and we need to own our food supply.
That's right.
And let's talk about economic justice. And do you know that Arkansas has the 2nd highest poverty rate in the country and the lowest minimum wage? That's why every one of you needs to get out and vote yes on ballot issue 5 to raise the minimum wage. And it's important that we win this victory, but it's not going to be enough. This ballot initiative wants to raise this to $8.25, but did you know that the MIT Living Wage Calculator shows that for an Arkansan or Fayettevillean to support themselves and one dependent, they need to earn almost $17 an hour. We need to get out there and work hard and support people who will raise us from a minimum wage to a living wage. You know, we like to say we're a family values state, but part of that being a family values is valuing families and paying workers enough that they can support their dependents.
That's right.
And people working full-time should not live in poverty. Social justice also requires environmental justice. Our natural resources belong to all of us. They are part of the public trust. And unfortunately, our community is predominantly powered by dirty energy. And did you know that 97 cents of every dollar that we spend on energy leaves our local economy? What are we going to do about this? Well, your city government, we are doing work to help us improve our energy efficiency through enacting the strongest building codes in the state to starting our first energy improvement district, which is going to enable us to make low-interest loans to property owners to help them with energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy projects. We're also working to reduce our waste. We have the most ambitious waste reduction goal in the country to reduce our waste by 80%. Because we're not going to throw away our future. Additionally, one of the next steps that we need to do is we need to own the power production. We need to return the power to the people. Right. And one of the best ways for us to get rid of dirty energy, for us to stop playing a part in the fracking that is polluting our communities and endangering our water supplies, for us to stop the massacre of trees in our utility right-of-ways, and to bridge the digital divide, is to start a municipal power and internet company. Because who do you want owning the power? The people or the corporation? So in order to do this, we need to support strong and visionary leaders that are willing to get out there and take a bold stance. We need everyone to get out and vote. Early voting is open. Go vote. Get your friends to vote. We need to vote out of office state representatives like Charlie Collins who have made it too hard for municipalities to own their power supplies and internet.